Hi, I'm Maggie,
Hi, I'm Grace, and this is
a Very Bookish podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to a Very Bookish podcast. Today is episode 89, and I am yet again alone. Grace is still on sabbatical, but I have a very special author guest. I have Mimi Flood, and it is not Flood, like blood, it is Flood. I have gotten this wrong so many times already today. So we have Mimi Flood on today with us. Welcome, Mimi.
Hi. Yes, I swear I'm gonna start calling myself Mimi Flood now.
Like I feel like I also think since you're in Canada, it's you can get away with it because it's like y'all speak French too, so it's like
yeah, but it still wouldn't be Flood in French. But anyway,
I mean, you can get away with it. Us Americans,
I know,
we
but
don't know any better.
horrible. It sounds horrible. Oh no, I've lit up again. Okay.
Oh no, it's fine.
It'll
Our
adjust.
listeners, our
I'm
listeners
not
don't
an
care.
alien.
Yeah, but Mimi, would you like to introduce yourself and who you are for our listeners who maybe don't know about you or haven't heard of you before?
Sure. So I'm Mimi Flood. I'm based in Montreal, Canada. I write steamy romances, contemporary romance. I just published my 6th book in January, Verses of Us. And my characters are usually very strong, independent women. And the fantastic beta heroes that fall in love with them and that make them see their value and their worth. That's usually what I write about.
That's good. So how long have you I looked at your Goodreads and it showed that you only had 8 distinct works. How long have you been writing for and when did your career start?
It says 8.
Yeah.
there's another Mimi Flood who writes poetry, and that's not me. So occasionally Goodreads adds her to my profile and then I have to go and switch it. So I'm going to have to check that out. No, there's 6 actual works that are mine.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've been writing since I was about 12, just little short stories and things like that. But it was about, I think it was 2017. I had written a story just for fun. I was on mat leave, and time blurs when you're a parent. 20 something, and I was on mat leave with my first daughter, and I was writing these stories, and one of them I had given to a couple of people and they really, really liked. So at the time I wasn't aware of self-publishing, so I kind of was just sitting on it, but then somebody mentioned it to me, so I started looking into it, and so then in 2018 I self-published my first book, The Long Weekend, and then it got nominated for a Kobo Emerging Writer Prize for romance. So I said, oh, wow, okay, so maybe I'm onto something here. And then that was it. I decided to start doing it full time, and I've been doing it ever since.
Wow. So since you have 6 distinct works, not 8, according to Goodreads, get yourself together. So do you usually write like a book a year then? Is that kind of your process?
It's about that. It takes me about, I'd say like 6 to 8 months, really, like in between books.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. It takes me about I don't really set a date. I kind of just write, and then I kind of eventually pick a date that I'm going to release it. So yes, it comes out to about every year or so.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. Well, when I'm obviously looking at your Goodreads right now. And one of the things that I noticed is I always want to ask authors, but I never really do get the chance. I see that you were a part of an anthology. Is that correct?
I am part. It's not out yet. It's coming out in October. It's to support breast cancer, and it's going to be supporting the charity anthology, and it's going for the American Breast Cancer Society and Canadian as well. There's a ton of amazing authors on there. I mean, Lydia Michaels, Zoe York, the Cassidy London is the one who's running the whole show, and she is like the strongest person I've ever met in my life. So, and she writes amazing stuff. They all do, but Cassidy, fellow Montrealer, lives 5 minutes away from me. Awesome. And it's coming out in October. It's going to be a really, really cool book.
Yeah. So, okay, don't touch my microphone. Sorry, my cat he wants attention. So what I wanted to ask always us authors is like, how do you get onto an anthology, and kind of like what's the process of writing for an anthology?
So in this situation, I mean, like I said, I'm friends with Cassidy. She decided, because she is currently going through her own battle with breast cancer. She decided that this would be an amazing project. So she invited a bunch of people. And, you know, I mean, I couldn't say no. I mean, it's just sounded like such a great cause. And that's how it happened for me. I know I'm not sure. I'm not the expert in anthologies. I mean, I figure that most of the time you get asked by either a friend or somebody, you know, who respects your work and everything. And in this case, it's like short stories. It's under like 10,000 words. So it's really, you know, it's not something that's totally hard to get into. You can write a 10,000 word story in a couple of months, you know. And, oh no.
Oh my gosh. He literally just wants me to hold him, and he will do anything to make sure I hold him.
That's so cute.
Apologies for
no, that's fine. That's adorable.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So anyway, so that was it. So she just asked me, and I was like, absolutely, I wouldn't say no to that. So, usually, yeah. I mean, again, like I said, I'm not the expert, but you have, you know, a certain amount of time to get your work fixed up, and it's really cool because it's, you know, we can chat amongst ourselves, like, you know, and discuss our stories and everything. So that's really fun. It's different because when you're writing your regular novel, you're usually alone. I mean, you have your alpha readers, your beta readers, but this time you're all working on towards the same goal. So it's like a community of writers. It's like a little group of writers working for this one thing. So it's really awesome.
So since you said like mostly you kind of have to get invited in, is there any way for new authors then to like get onto an anthology? Is there like, should they start befriending like a ton of authors? And, you know,
I've always believed that in as a self-published author, and I won't say I always believe, because I didn't know this until a few years ago. But yes, writing is very important, but networking and making connections with fellow writers and bookstagrammers and book talkers is so key. And you don't realize it at first, but it not only helps with opportunities like anthologies or even promotion. I mean, you make friends, they'll share your stuff, they'll read your stuff, you know, their readers will pick up your stuff. It's a whole network, right? But like I said, because writing is so lonely, you need those people. You need like a tight knit. And I mean, you can have a lot of author friends, but I'm talking about your author besties, like the ones you are actually messaging on WhatsApp and like chatting with and crying over things. And so I feel like a lot of self-published or indie authors, they think, okay, I gotta do this, I gotta advertise, but they forget the networking part, because sometimes you just need a few really good like friends that are gonna help you out in the world, you know. So for the anthologies, I mean, I think I've seen some authors put out like an open call, you know, like asking for people to participate. You could always look around. I'm sure there's in a lot of writers groups, people post things, and it can't hurt to ask. If you have a favorite author that writes in your style, just ask them, hey, if ever you have an anthology, I would love to contribute this. I'm sure there's websites too for it. And you'd be surprised how many authors would actually probably say, oh, actually, I have this coming up. Because usually it's like a year or a while in advance, you know? So just ask, look around, Google search it. I mean, there's many, many different ways to get into one.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever... honestly, with all the author guests, like talking about networking, as somebody who's in like the business realm, and one of my MBA classes, we talk about like networking is like a key part of any career is to network. I don't think I've ever heard like people talk about like authors having to network and how important it is for authors to network. And kind of like, what was your process when you first started out? Was getting like to reaching out to people? Were you just like slowly like kind of like chatting with them, or were you kind of like, hey, let's be best friends kind of
no
thing? Like,
I'm actually
I'm
a very shy person. I always assume the worst and think, oh no, they're not gonna want to talk to me. And so the first couple of years it was very lonely. I had a few like author friends. I think the first people I knew, I think, was Cassidy London and Daisy St. James. They're both from Montreal, and we met in some Facebook group. So that was how I started getting friends in the milieu. But I think it was until when I got on Instagram, somehow, I don't know, I think I became friends with an author, and then she invited me to like this romance chat group. And then that grew into more relationships and more, and it just went from there. Like, for example, now for the past year and a half, me and Lila Dawes are like best, like we're actually like sisters from different mothers. Like we're just, but we met on Instagram in this chat group. She was friends with somebody else and then joined, and then we branched off and started chatting, and now we're soulmates, you know? Like, so, I mean, it really is. And even if you're shy, like I said, I'm super shy, but most authors are actually really friendly people, and they won't just be like, you know, if you message them, what's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to ignore you. Okay, fine. But for all you know, like I remember one day, my biggest, oh my God moment was I replied to one of K.A. Tucker's stories, and she replied back. And now like, we're not besties, but like, if I send her something, she'll answer. She'll be, you know, like it's Zoe York, all these amazing people that I look up to. They're just humans, and they're in the same boat that we are, you know? So just reach out. I mean, really, you would be surprised how many like relationships you can make just by saying, hey, how's it going? I have this question. But don't like sell yourself, you know, and don't be like, hey, I have this book. Can you read it? Like, don't do that. Just be cool, man. Just be cool.
Yeah.
Like you would approach any other human being that isn't a writer, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I love Lila too. We actually had her on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and she's amazing. Henry. Yes, that's all. Like for half of the episode, we just talked about Henry.
Hey, I loved it.
And the reason why like I brought that up is because I literally scrolled through her like entire Instagram, and like her first post had Henry in it.
Yeah.
And she talked about The Witcher and stuff, and I was like, oh, we're gonna talk about this because I need somebody to talk about it.
Yeah, they should.
And so
Henry should be married to her, but he just doesn't know it yet.
Yeah. So. Yeah, he just has another significant other that just she's biding her time. Yeah, there we go.
She's warming him up.
So another thing is you have an average rating of 4.27 stars on Goodreads. As an author dealing with reviews, like how do you deal with people who post positive and negative reviews? Do you like read them, or are you kind of like, I'm going to steer clear of every review I ever receive?
I'm supposed to not read them. I'm supposed to, because they're not meant for me.
Yeah.
But I do look at them. It's just my OCD. I have to. But I feel like, so I am aware of the whole debate of whether or not it's for readers, it's not for authors. I do agree that maybe you shouldn't tag the author on a negative review, because if you're like me and you're very susceptible to negative, not that I mind it. If anything, I actually sometimes I will be okay with a bad review as long as it's constructive, right? I mean, I got one once that was like 2 stars and it said predictable. But I'm like, it's a romance. Okay. Most romances are kind of predictable, but I'm like, that didn't
They all have happy endings.
Exactly. So like, I'm like, if you tell me why you hated it or why it, you know, that helps me in the long run, because then I say, okay, yeah, then I can see it, because it's a completely, I mean, we do send our stuff to editors and to beta readers and alpha readers. So we do get a good idea of what people are thinking. But sadly, sometimes, you know, those opinions may not be 100% honest. They might be, you know, guarded and a little bit restricted from what they're saying. Whereas a reader will just, leaving a review, will be honest. So I'm all for negative reviews as much as I'm, you know, loving the positive reviews. And I mean, yeah, like I said, I try not to look at them, but I do. And I feel okay. Are we allowed to swear on this? Like, are you?
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. No.
So go ahead and swear. People, opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one.
Yeah.
So, you know, hey, I read books sometimes that are absolute shit, you know, and it happens. I mean, you're not going to please everybody. So I don't like the idea that, oh, well, we can't post any reviews that are under 4 stars. That's just bull. Because then the reviews you do get, you don't know if they're genuine. You don't know if people actually meant the 4 to 5 stars, or they're just being nice. So yeah.
I only asked that question because that topic has been in the book talk sphere a lot. Yeah. But also I have an author friend who literally like got DM'd like a whole like review on their book and like why this person hated it. And they had to be like, thank you for the criticism, but you can post that on Goodreads and stuff, but please don't like send me these things. Yeah. And that's, I am a Goodreads like connoisseur. Like I do sometimes read like non-spoiler reviews just to see like the tropes. That's all I care about is the tropes and like how, if it was sexy enough that it got your pussy tingling. That's all I need to know. Those are the 2 things I want to know about a book. You don't have to tell me anything else.
Right. The rest doesn't matter.
Like the plot was subpar. Okay, but did you get the tingles? If yes, then I'm going to read it.
Fantastic.
Like I am not very critical when it comes to books compared to other reviewers.
Yeah.
So I feel like because I don't hate movies. Like there's never like a movie that I've like absolutely hated except Twilight.
Ooh, what? Okay. Well, no, it's pretty. Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah.
Like,
when it came out, it was really good.
Yeah,
Now
I
you
was
watch it,
also
you're like,
I was a Twilight stan. Like me and my cousin, we were watching all those movies, and now I hate it, but I hate watching it. I'm
Yes.
that person. I
Yes,
still
same.
hate it,
Yeah.
but I will watch it still.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I am with like books and stuff. I genuinely don't have like very harsh critical opinions on books, except Haunting Adeline. For any of our listeners who are interested, you can go watch the live stream on YouTube and kind of get my thoughts on that because I had some thoughts.
I've heard there's several thoughts about that one. Yeah.
Yeah, but I kind of go through a whole revelation in that episode. But yeah, that's kind of why I asked, because I know authors, there's this like whole Discord on reviews aren't meant for authors, and I was like, I don't care who reads my reviews. Like if an author reads my reviews and I say your book is absolute garbage, I'm sorry, but that's just my opinion, and you don't have to care about my opinion.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you
Well,
my
exactly.
opinion.
Exactly. Because
Like,
essentially,
in the
as
whole-
authors, I know, yes, we're writing for our readers, but like you're also writing for yourself. So like if you're happy with your work and the people who love your work, then okay, yeah, you're not going to please everybody. There are going to be people that are going to hate it. That's what happens. And I mean, I don't know if it's because, so I studied creative writing and film. Okay. So like creative writing is nothing but people criticizing your work constantly, but they do it in a productive way so that it helps you become a better writer. So I guess I'm always anticipating a few people, at least half the class is going to hate my stuff, you know? Like that's my mentality. So again, yes, you are doing it for the reader majority, but yeah, of course our authors are going to read it. I mean, not, not the huge ones who have 20,000 reviews. They don't have time for that, but like the smaller ones are going to read it. So I always say, if you can make it helpful, even if it's negative, I'm for that. If you can't, that's fine. But if you can.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't send a DM. Like that's just.
Yeah, I understand like the purpose of people saying like my review is for other readers and not for the author. And like I disavow like authors like commenting on reviews and like especially negative ones and like just bashing. And it's like, dude, does it really matter? Like in the whole grand scheme of things.
Exactly.
Do the negative reviews really matter? And it's like, if you're getting that, I'm going to say triggered, because that is like reacts, creates a response to it.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be reading negative reviews.
No.
And like, if you can't handle the criticism, that's okay. That's great.
I feel like the ones who can't handle the criticism is because they're refusing to see that maybe they do accept that is a flaw with their book and they don't want to see it and they don't want to accept it. And their ego is like, no. So that's usually when you get the fights that break out. That I feel like if you really are confident about your own work, you're not going to care,
Yeah. And I also think like there are like negative reviews that like have there's genuine problems with for some reason. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm back. Apologies. My screen just like completely froze. But there are like problematic things that happen in a book that need to be talked about and stuff. And like I think that's also like sometimes if authors like read that and stuff, it's important to read this kinds of criticisms as well, and kind of like to learn and understand like, okay, I can like do something different. Yeah. But yeah, it was just something that like has been on my mind, and like you were the next interviewer that I could just like chisel away at and kind of get like all my thoughts out with. But yeah, especially because I like looked at your like ratings and I was like, holy cow, these books are high. Like the average for these books, I was like, damn.
I don't have a lot of ratings or reviews, but I do get good reviews. I mean, I am proud of my work, but I know I know it's not for everybody, and I know, but yeah, I know the other day I was like, that's actually a really good rating. Okay, I don't like being like tooting my own horn, but I'm gonna toot it.
Yeah. I mean, you might as well. Like you're your greatest supporter and your greatest enemy. So, excuse me. But sorry, I'm drinking Red Bull to our listeners, and I got the burps. So apologies if I burped in the middle of this interview. It wasn't my intention. But kind of looking at your books, I wanted to know like what you kind of talked about, like how long you write for, and you usually put out a book a year, but what is the writing process like for you? Do you like get an idea while you're writing another book and you're like, okay, I'll save it for the next book, or and then like your writing process, do you like work every day on it, or do you take breaks? Like what's kind of your whole process of start to finish for a book?
So so I'm not disciplined whatsoever. I have no process. What I do is an idea comes to me, I write it down. If the idea keeps coming back to me, if those characters keep talking to me, then I'm like, okay, this book is happening. And that's why it usually takes me a while. Also, I'm a stay-at-home mom to, a 7 and a 9-year-old. Yes. So when they're at school, essentially is when I'm working. When they're back home, forget it. I can't get anything done, weekends, forget it. So I write when I can. And no, I get ideas constantly while I'm writing one thing for another thing. I've got 14 or 17 whips right now, just ideas. And I've got a word tally. So it also goes with my moods. So some days I think it was during COVID, we all were in a very dark mode. So I had just released With Reservations, which is like a kind of, enemies to lovers, steamy, whatever. And then I was going to work on the sequel and I just was not feeling it. So the story for One Night with Frankie came to me and that was pure filth. And I mean, it was filth. And I wrote it and I sent it to my friend and she wrote it back and she was like, you need to take it down a notch because this is dirt. Like this, I mean, some people like it, but it was a little bit too much for what I usually write. So I toned it down a little bit. I mean, it's still my filthiest book, but that's a novella. And I just had to get that one out. It was just how I was feeling. So I released that one in between the two other ones. So it really goes by mood. I'm inspired also by movies, TV shows that I see, music. It really depends on everything. Like right now, I'm actually in a very darker mood. And I may or may not be writing some really filthy dark stuff. Maybe. I had started this story years ago and I was like, okay, let's put this aside because this is just inappropriate. And then I came back to it this last week. And yesterday I was writing a scene and I was like, oh, I was talking to my husband. I was like, babe, this is dirty. This is whoo, like you said, it makes you tingle,
Like I want my kitty to be not my actual cat, on my body. Like I need it to be purring. Well, I need it to be tingling when I read.
Yeah. And I was like, and I told him that, and he was like, you need to write more of that stuff, babe. I need you in that mood all the time. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll see what I can do.
I literally that's what I thought. I told myself I don't want to date during college, even though there were times where I liked guys and I've literally talked about it on the podcast. But that's my one requirement for if I have a partner, they have to read the books that I like. And you have to learn from this. Not the dark aspects, because I read a lot of dark romance. Yeah. But the others. What I like in other places and what I'm interested in trying and stuff like that. Because I feel like romance definitely helps women explore what they like and what they don't like. Yeah. And their boundaries, I think also is something that we talk about a lot on the podcast of what romance helps for women. But yeah, girlie, write the dirtiest filth you can, okay? And I will promote it. I need bottom of the barrel dirty romance. That is my cup of tea. I like soft contemporary. I have my phases, but oh, sorry, my cat farted. It stinks.
You didn't hear it. I didn't hear it anyway.
Oh my god. I could smell it. He's just sitting there on the floor looking at me. Oh my gosh, it's horrible. Sorry, but literally right.
Yeah. Oh, I know that. I keep looking over at my dog thinking, oh god, what did we do? No.
Yeah, I'm just sorry. My mind was on going out a good place, and then it just hit me, and now I'm like,
this is why writing romance when you have kids around does not work. Because you can't be in that dirty, filthy mode when they're, mommy, it doesn't work. It breaks it destroys it.
Well, okay, I was going to ask, I just thought of a new thing. So you mentioned that you listen sometimes music inspires you. I currently am writing a stalker romance. And so I listen to a Feminine Rage playlist on Apple Music. Are there certain playlists that you've had for like certain books that you like as you're writing you listen to, or like what's kind of your music?
I have Spotify playlists for each of my books. So if you go to my Spotify, you will actually see like each book title and boom. And many of my readers will listen to them while reading, and you like it goes with you, you know, because I like I said, I studied film, and had I not been writing, I probably would end up in like a music, you know, director kind of thing, because every time I watch a show or movie and there's certain songs for certain scenes, and then sometimes you're like, ew, God, why would you? No, this is the wrong one. And then sometimes it's like, oh, yes. So I have tons of playlists. I mean, it depends. Like I'm trying to think. So the last one I did, it starts in the 90s, the book Verses of Us starts in the 90s and goes all the way to like 20, well now. So I had to get back in my 90s boy band mode. You know, I had but I had like those heart throb songs, you know, oh no,
I can still, it probably is from his litter box. I'm sorry. Oh, like if you see me looking around, it is like foul.
Oh, I remember. I used to have a cat. Yeah, I remember those days.
And he's just sitting there, like looking at
me. Care? You don't care?
I'm like concerned that he actually like pooped somewhere, but I know he didn't.
No,
I know he didn't because he's a good
It's
boy.
Coming.
He wouldn't do that.
It's coming.
But
yeah. So I would, you know, it depends on the style of book I'm writing. It depends on where they're located. If I'm going to write like a seaside romance, and it's going to be a lot of like indie, but if it's, you know, I've got the harder thumping bass ones for like the sex scenes, you know, I mean, it depends. I like a lot of different kinds of music. So I can't say there's anything specific, but I do, if I hear a song and I'm just like this, even the lyrics, if they represent the characters, the story, boom, add it to the playlist. And I build it as I'm writing so that once the book is out, boom, and I still add some sometimes after the fact. So
do you like listen to just like a random playlist like while you're writing, and as you're writing like you hear a song and you're like, oh, this is perfect? Or like what's the so that's kind of the process of curating? Because I've always wondered, how do these authors, they have so many books and they like curate like a playlist for each, and I'm like, how do you have time to listen to all of this music?
I don't know, a lot of people can't write with music. I absolutely need to write with music. It could just be, you know, ASMR, or it could be like binaural beats or something. Sometimes that's all I need if I'm like really getting into it. But if I'm really trying to get an emotion into a scene, I will try to put on a playlist or a specific song. Like I remember Verses of Us, that came to me, you know, Again by Janet Jackson. Like it's such a sad, I mean, you feel like the heartbreak in that song, and that was like, that's the story, like that is the theme song. So like sometimes if I have to get into a specific mindset, I'll just be like, oh, this song, you know. But most of the time I'm just like Spotify random music, and then I'll hear a song, and it usually, you know, it'll give you kind of like things you like, so it'll be in the same kind of genre. So like that's usually what I have. And then if I hear a song, I'll just add it to the playlist automatically. I always start a book pretty much with a playlist already started. So I can add stuff as I go. Or sometimes if I mention, because I'll mention songs in my books too, so then I'll add those songs to it too. So.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of what I do too, is I listen to my feminine rage whenever I'm like working out or I'm writing. Those are like the two instances where I listen to it. And I also feel like I love it when authors do mention like song titles and stuff, because then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna listen to this right now as this like is happening, because I feel like I'm not like a huge music fan. Like I don't listen to music all the time, but I feel like music and reading just goes so well together, especially when it's in like an audiobook. That is my favorite, when they have like the music playing over and I'm like, it feels, you feel very immersed into the world. And I feel like I don't want to be in reality right now. Right. So no, for sure. I prefer to be in there.
Totally.
But, so I'm just going to ask you about every single little process of writing your books.
Go for it.
But so like you create a playlist. How do you kind of, I don't know if it's not create, but like your cover process? Like what is the process to making your cover? Is it before you write the book, during you writing the book, or like after you write the book, you're like, now I can do this?
It's kind of all over the place. I mean, for example, that thing I was writing for fixing up yesterday, like all of a sudden I had an idea for like the book cover. So I go on Canva, I'll find a picture, and I'll just kind of do a mock-up as I go. My book cover will probably change 4 or 5 times before the final one. depending on the mood. But I generally have it done, or at least I know what it's going to look like before I'm done the book. And again, it goes back to vibe. It goes back to, the couple. I have to try to find, and I'm very picky about my couples. Like, they have to be as accurate as possible. And yeah, but I mean, I get very ADD sometimes, I'll be writing and I'm like, I don't feel like writing. Oh, let's go on Canva and mess around with, and then I spend 6 hours changing fonts. I mean, it's like, it could be that basic, but I mean, it's kind of just throughout the whole time, I think.
Yeah. I mean, do you create your own covers then?
I do. I do.
Wow. Okay. I don't think I've met an author yet who's created their own covers.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I could, in the beginning, I was like, no. In the beginning, I was trying to like save as much money as possible and not get something to do. Oh
my gosh. He's literally like, I cannot use my keyboard anymore. I literally unplugged it. What are you doing, bud? Okay, he's laying underneath my microphone.
Wow.
I'll let him stay right here.
Yeah.
But that's crazy. I've never actually heard. I don't think, I could be wrong. Somebody will probably correct me. But
I think yeah, some people do them. I think Zoe York does her. I'm pretty sure she does her own.
I haven't interviewed her yet, so that's probably why. But most of the people I've interviewed.
But yeah, she has. I think she has her on her YouTube channel. She shows like how she builds her covers and stuff. So I just started doing mine with like Photoshop and Canva and whatever. And I mean, I could get someone to do them, but I feel like I would probably have to argue with them about 20 times.
Yeah. I because I am obviously writing a book. It's very light writing. I have not written in like 3 weeks because I've been so busy with school. But I also kind of use just Canva and put together like a general like theme of what I wanted. But I'm not creative in that way. So I'm like, I'm going to just have somebody else do it. And then Grace, my co-host, amazing artist. Her artwork, she did Lee Jacot's like character kind of like comic style book cover for like an alternate cover, and I was like, she's gonna do at least like one alternate cover for my book. I love cartoon character book covers, and I'm like, she can make it sexy. She's an amazing artist. She did a cover for the Steamy Lip box of, I think it was Sierra Simone and Julia Murphy's book that they wrote, but she's an amazing artist. But yeah, so that's kind of like, I'm not artistic like that at all. So I have to outsource all of that to other people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's what another lesson I've learned as an indie is you do as much as you can by yourself. Sure. But if you can outsource it, you probably should. I mean, I know like a lot of people probably don't love my covers, and I could definitely like redo them, but I'm okay with them. I think they're really good. But I mean, it's not, now I consider it easy but like the first one I did, I had somebody do it for me. And it took so long and so many conversations, and it was just like, so the second one I was like, let me try it myself. And then it's gotten easier as I go. So, I mean, it's just a question of practice really. And Canva now, I mean, gosh, they have so many, like, it's so fantastic and easy now. Like they've added in the last couple of years, they've added so many features. It's ridiculous. It's super helpful.
Yeah. I like to use Canva too, because I'm not really good with Photoshop, but Canva is user friendly and I'm able to use it.
Yeah.
So like everything you see for the podcast is from Canva, FYI. Yep. Like our background is Canva, like all of this stuff is Canva. Yeah. But another question I had is, you kind of like, when it comes to writing and stuff, getting an editor, what was your process? Like, do you stick with the same editor for every single one of your books? Or like, how did you establish getting an editor, and like, what did you look for?
So I edit my own stuff, which is a very big faux pas, I know. And I've been told that I shouldn't. What happened is I realized soon, I mean, I know like my first, 2 books, I probably should have paid. And I probably should get somebody to edit my stuff. I'm very OCD, and I go over my stuff a million times. And I get several people to beta read, to alpha read. And, I feel like by the time my book is done, there isn't much that needs fixing, if anything at all. Most people that read my arcs and stuff don't usually have anything, knows no mistakes or stuff like that. And I realized that like, and I'm not, editing is very hard. I kudos to all the editors out there. I'm not trying to down on them or anything, but like, there's a lot of stuff out there that is badly edited, and they're edited by editors. And I feel like a lot of people assume, oh, okay, well, you have to get somebody to do it. But just because you get someone to do it doesn't mean that they actually are. You have to really ask around. You have to make sure you're getting somebody who knows what they're doing. And again, that is a very, very costly thing. I mean, that's probably the biggest cost when you're publishing. So it's something you definitely need to factor in. But like I said, I did creative writing. I studied English, like it's, if I wasn't so OCD about my work, I would definitely get someone to do it, Will I get someone to do it in the future? Probably. I think I would start getting somebody to work on the developmental editing as opposed to like copy editing and all the other stuff. But I mean, again, I think if you're not sure, if it's not your forte, then definitely invest in an editor, because that will change everything. And it'll also change like your story. Some people, they think it's just mistakes and proofreading and stuff like that. It's not. An editor will definitely tell you like this whole chunk doesn't need to be here. Your plot holes, things like that, So yeah, will that change? Probably. I don't know. We shall see. But for now, no, I'm the one that's edited all my stuff.
Well, are you more of an edit as you go then kind of person, or do you like write the whole book and then you like sit down and edit?
I edit as I go, and I know I shouldn't. And like it's ridiculous. Like I edit as I'm writing like the first draft, like and people are like, no, just write, and I can't. If I see that squiggly line, or if I see, and so I need to stop doing that. But I am definitely edit as you go. And I'm trying to stop that. I'm trying to do more just write and then revise later. But I feel like it helps me, because sometimes I will, as I'm editing or going over something I just wrote, it'll help me, it'll push me into the next scene or something like that. Sometimes, you block before the next scene. So definitely try to do it a little bit of both, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, that's very interesting. I think you're the first also author that I've edited fully by themselves. But like, I mean, to each their own. Like, I know that I would never be able to edit a book. Like, I don't have a creative writing degree. Like, I don't have a degree in any writing. I have a degree in accounting. Well, yeah, getting my degree in accounting. So I definitely am not a words person when it comes to like grammar. I am notorious for not doing well in the spelling bee. And or like everything. Yeah. But yeah, that's actually kudos to you for being able to like.
There's a reason. There's a reason my books take a year to come out.
I was going to say that. I was going to say that, but I didn't want to be mean.
The writing is probably like 4 months, and the rest is all just the other stuff,
Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh. Oh, my dog.
Oh.
Do I have to let him out? Yeah, I have to let him out. Can I run and let him out?
Yeah, okay. Go ahead and run and let him out. I'll talk with our listeners who are here. Just letting y'all know that we are still have our shop open. So if you still want to buy Smutsville University, we have fully moved away from Etsy, and we have moved on to averybookishshop.com, which will be linked down below. So make sure you go check that out. And as we're kind of like wrapping up this episode, make sure you are following Mimi on all of her social media. I'll have all the links down below, and, just do all that stuff. And I don't know what else to say, so I'm kind of just rambling and, just waiting here. But thank you if you have been listening. And we are going to go with our last question, which is a question that I ask every single author as like my wrap-up question. We kind of gave the advice. There was a little bit of an advice piece earlier, but what's the one piece of advice you would give to a up-and-coming like person who wants to write, or like a new author?
There's so much. Okay, so I think the main thing is to take some time to sit and really think about why you're doing it. Are you doing it because, you think you could write some good stories? Or are you doing it because you want the money? Because I'm going to tell you what, You can't do this for the money, okay? Unless you suddenly become Colleen Hoover, it's probably not going to be about the money. You have to really be sure that you want to do this deep, deep, deep down. This is your love. My husband always says, like, when I get in these, oh God, what am I doing? Do it until you don't love it anymore. Because if you don't love it, you're just going to force out these stories and people are they're going to know, they're going to sense, they're going to pick it up that you weren't into this story, that you were kind of forcing it, If you don't love it, it's going to get hard. And there are times that it's really hard. And like you said, the reviews, criticism, books flopping. I mean, there's so many things now, especially that can happen, that can go wrong with a book. So like, you really have to make sure this is what you want to do. And it's not just some like off the cuff, oh, I would be really good at this. Because I know a lot of people that say, oh, I want to write a book. Sure, go for it. Write a book. It is freaking fantastic. But is that it? Are you going to do that? Are you going to do 20 books, 40 books? What's your goal? You have to really see where you're going and be sure you want to go there. Because there's times where like, it's tough and it'll eat at your like, I don't know. For me personally, I take things personally. I'm very sensitive to things like that. So there's times, you have to have a tough skin. You have to be sure that you're cut out for it, I guess, because it's not always going to be just, and Book Talk isn't going to just automatically pick up your book and love it. You're not going to go viral tomorrow. So you have to really, at the end of the day, you have to write what you love, but make sure you love what you're writing and not do it for other people. You have to do it for yourself. So, and it's a very lonely job at the same time, right? It can be a huge community, but it can be very lonely. So you got to take all these things. Uh-oh. You have to take all these things into consideration, because it's really, I never thought writing would, as a career, would be difficult. Not difficult. There's a lot of things I never even knew about. And now especially, I feel like there's so much drama in all the Instagram book talk worlds. You have to be sure of why you're doing it. And once you're there, if you've decided, okay, yeah, I'm ready for this, I'm ready, and like you've really investigated and like looked into everything and researched it, if you still want to do it, go for it. And always remember that you're doing it for yourself because you love it, not to please other people. So that's a long.
No, that's a great piece of advice. I mean, I always want to know what an author thinks and what kind of like advice they would give, because there's so many people who want advice, but they're too scared to ask. So I always want to add that little snippet in the end. But thank you, Mimi.
Thank you
for coming on.
Flood.
Flute. I'm gonna just start calling you Mimi Flute. No, I'm gonna be like,
don't do that.
I just start like a campaign to call you Flute, and I confuse everyone.
Oh, great.
No, but Mimi Flood, guys, it's Mimi Flood. I like to say like Katrina, Hurricane Katrina. They caused floods.
No.
I grew up in.
That's even worse. There's no way to. Put it.
Yeah, Mimi Flood. I mean, because floods aren't good anyways. So, I mean, it is what it is. But thank you, everybody who has listened to this episode. And thank you, Mimi, for coming on.
Thank you.
If you want, I already said, but you can find all of her links down in the description. They will be all linked down there. Make sure you go check out her newest release, and make sure you follow her on Instagram to check out upcoming releases and kind of just stay up to date. So thank you, and I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye, guys.
Bye.